Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk ETC. I have with me Christopher Shen of the Portal Network, and he's going to talk about their blockchain naming service. He was showing me a little bit of their services before we started this recording, and I was pretty impressed. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of user-friendly features there, which I'm sure he'll enlighten us about. So welcome, Christopher.
Thank you, Christian.
So before we jump into the interesting technology that you have, why don't you let the audience know a little bit about yourself? So can you share a little bit of your background?
Okay. So I got into blockchain in around 2013 to 2014, and just like everyone else, super interested about the tech, interested about Bitcoin, and I read a few books around it about digital currency and distributed ledger. Then bought my first Bitcoin and showed my mom about it, and my mom was like, "What is this?" And at the time, I wanted to show her how easy it is to send Bitcoin to her and then send it to someone else. I know when I tell her to, you got to generate an address and hexadecimal hash, just like, I'll never remember this, because she will look at, like, this is even harder than email addresses. So that was the time me and my where my partner and I, which were friends before, and to start thinking, hey, how do we solve this problem? How do we let people easily send and receive token, at the same time keeping the sort of a decentralized characteristic and not have any like plugin and layer around it. So that's kind of reason why we created Portal, and so our background has just been learning, and then as I'll say, as blockchain start exponentially grow, that's when we decided to sit down and bootstrap and start a Portal. Yeah.
Okay, and you guys are based in Taiwan, right?
Yeah, we're the entire Portal Network team. We are currently based in Taipei, Taiwan. Yeah.
Okay, and I think everybody would agree that we can't live on the web without, or even the internet without the domain name service, right? We type google.com and that translates into a number, actually a set of numbers to make the web work properly. And so with blockchain technology, there's not a dominant similar system, right? We all use whenever we send cryptocurrency, we have those web address, or not web address, we have our account addresses, and so it's really confusing. And then so your technology, I could see how it could be very useful to be able to use a name, right? The receiver's name, for example, instead of having to know that address.
Yes, for sure. The idea behind it is to have create blockchain name service similar to how DNS work. If we think about it, DNS has a crazy, I would say, critical role in internet adoption. It plays in everyday life. And if we think about it, like when you search for a friend on Facebook, you're pretty much using the platform's naming service to resolve the person's name to the profile. And when you look up a website, you're using the DNS to resolve the domain name to its host IP addresses. Our idea is that when you look up a decentralized website, you will be able to use the blockchain name service to resolve the domain name to its host address and its underlying decentralized components. This could mean, let's say, Ethereum Classic as an operating system, and then IPFS as a decentralized file storage, and then let's say Golem as the decentralized computing. Yeah.
Right. And you put all of those pieces that already existed, and you seem like you're very focused on making it very easy for people to use all those services, right?
Yeah, for sure. So if you visit Portal's site and you'll see two main platforms other than the BNS. One is called Mume, which focus on non-technical user adoption. Another platform is called Kaizen, which focus on technical user adoption. And under Mume, one of the product is called the Web Builder. And the idea behind it is allow you to easily select a template, write something into it, and then upload it to IPFS, and it will generate a hash, the content hash, and bind it to your ENS domain name. So it's like straightforward where you can, if you have the latest MetaMask installed, you can simply type in your website .eth and then check out the website that you just created with the existing template, and then have that really clear sort of understanding around, well, how IPFS work, how your name service work, and how blockchain work, basically.
So really, it's so that just shows how you've taken a lot of care. You've made it work with MetaMask, which is a very nice tool, and so yeah, and also you've developed a decentralized website program, right, to deploy websites on your system. Is that correct?
Okay, so yeah, why do we create it? So we think that blockchain name service should have multiple tools to enable a user to have this seamless experience. So one of the product in Mume is a marketplace. It's very similar to a GoDaddy, where you can easily buy and sell domain name across multiple protocol. Currently, we support Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, and OneChain. And we have another another product in Mume called the Domain Manager. So it's, again, very similar how you manage your DNS on GoDaddy. And it allows you to create a subdomain, find an IPFS content hash, create your own address, and then connect it with the domain names that you own. So all these are sort of effort to create a seamless experience for non-technical user, basically token holder that just want to experience, these words that they hear so much. What is decentralized website? I do not think our version of decentralized website is the version of decentralized website, but again, we don't know what the future is going to be like. So we're using the existing tool that provide us, such as Golem, Ethereum Classic, Ethereum, IPFS, and sort of use these existing tools and create a current version of what decentralized website is.
Now, what did you mean when you said that you don't think that your version is the one that's going to be used, or it's not the? Do you say it's not? You don't think it's the final version, or what? What did you?
I don't. So I don't think it's the final version. I think how we shift from Web 1 to Web 2, and now we are all imagining what Web 3 is like, right?
Right.
And we are all imagining what's decentralized website, what are some of the components that made up decentralized website. And so I think there's a lot of work that need to go into it. So the reason why I say my version might not be the decentralized website, is that the way how we look at it is use some of these existing tech. We see multiple people and team that are building tools around it for sometimes their version of decentralized website. And Portal, we can imagine it being like a gateway and a sort of a connector that breeds many of these tools together. This can, later when we go into Kaizen, this will show a lot how when you use Kaizen is allowing developer to focus on building, let's say, decentralized application, decentralized website, and not having to worry about many of these decentralized components. which Portal is slowly and gradually adding more into it.
Okay. So if I understood you correctly, you're saying that there's going to be multiple implementations of decentralized websites, and you want to facilitate the use of all those various candidate systems. You want to make like a user friendly interface. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. So yes, so for to facilitate that, not only that, but also I would say like if like you will have right what we're seeing right now is there's a team that's building decentralized data storage, there's a team that's building decentralized file storage, there's a team that's building decentralized computing power. So everyone is building like a critical part or one part of what decentralized what when you add it up together will become somewhat a kind of version of decentralized website.
I see.
Yeah. So when you iterate, that's when you switch part. When you make it more decentralized, more scattered, and then that's when you put in different rules, and now go. But again, how do you do that? Is to become agnostic, I think. Portal, for example, on our blockchain name server, we support multiple protocol. We try and learn about different protocol, and then the first step is blockchain name service. So just like how we see DNS being the gateway to the centralized web, we believe that BNS is going to become the new gateway to the decentralized web. The underlying technology can be improved and updated.
Mhm.
You can imagine Portal being like that one-stop solution where our use cases is continuously increasing and improving. And one day I feel like it's very similar to how web started. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, so I think the people will understand what you're saying. We've done shows where we've mentioned many times, like you said, the vision of Web3, which is the dream of making a new, better internet that's decentralized, that's trustless. And we've also had people talking about making the tools easier to use. And so you are an example of what we've been dreaming about and expecting, right? Which is now making the tools now to work on blockchain technology that are getting easier and easier to compete with the World Wide Web, basically, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I like it that your blockchain naming service works across several blockchains and tries to be flexible that way. And also, you use the interplanetary file service, IPFS, for your file storage, which obviously is important if you have large files. You can't store it on the blockchain. So, and you said you're using all these other services and bringing them together. So yeah, it sounds like you guys have a great beginning there. How has the reception been? Have you gotten a lot of adoption and people giving you good feedback about it?
Yeah, so definitely. I think one of our when we look at the blockchain ecosystem, I think one of the biggest adoption we see right now are not only on the user side, end user for both non-technical user who's holding token and trying to understand more about blockchain, and then technical user, which are builder, developers, and so on. We see adoption there too. The other part we see that's growing the fastest are protocol that either have raised funds and then continuously growing the ecosystem. We see adoption there. And especially on Portal, when we work on multiple protocol and on to build blockchain name service, we see protocol and their developer team are working closely with us to build and to because the thing is what people don't know is when you build on different protocol, how do you, like, for example, receive the testnet token? Where do you get these testnet token? How do you start the infrastructure? How do you So many of these tools that we see that is on Ethereum Classic or Ethereum is not available on other protocols. So,
So just to be clear, when you use the word protocol, that's interchangeable with blockchain platform. You mean a different blockchain? Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
a different blockchain. So, so we can say a different so a different blockchain. And so we're seeing adoption there, where blockchain companies are working closely, and then building these tools that we see are also in, let's say, in Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me ask you also, so is there a cost? How does somebody begin to use the blockchain naming service? Does it cost tokens? Do you have to pay somehow in cryptocurrency for a name that you like, or can you introduce us to that process?
Yeah, so there's a bidding process. We called so this was started by Ethereum. It's utilized Mercury auction, and so how it will happen is you will interact with the Ethereum chain. You will bid the amount that you would like to bid. You choose the name that you want to choose, and then see if it's already owned or not. It has to be 7 letters or above, and then you submit a bidding amount. You have to put on. You get to choose if you want to use what we call like a bid mask. So it hides the amount of bid that you put in, and after that you submit the bid. So that's a 3 days process, and if no one bid on it, then you win the bid, and you have to finalize the bid. Then you own the domain name.
And why? I'm sorry. I'm sure people are going to wonder, why does the domain name have to be 7 characters or greater? Did I hear that correctly?
I think the main reason is to avoid domain scouting and sniping. Yeah.
Where people try. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll let you answer.
So just like the meaning is quite straightforward. To avoid domain sniping and scouting, to avoid people, early adopter to just buy a bunch of domain names.
Oh, okay. I think so. Yeah, okay. So I would have called that squatting. Yeah, trying to hold on to something like ABC or right. IBM, right, would be a great one to own. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And also that has to do, of course, with protecting from abuse. So why don't we segue into the general topic of security? Do you worry, like when you let's say that you next month you have a lot of adoption, and you're obviously going to have people trying to squat, trying to abuse the system. Is that something that you worry about? Then you've thought a lot about security?
Yes, for sure. Definitely. Our team, we're constantly working on the security side of things. And then both for the platform, Kaizen and Mume, to basically prepare ourselves when if there's let's say a huge adoption that come in, or let's say some people that want to hack the system and so on. But when it comes into the contract itself, we're not so much worried about it. We think both for Ethereum name server, Ethereum Classic name server, one chain name server, Icon name server, the ones that we have deployed, we're quite confident around it. But again, we have auditor that audit small contract.
Okay. And you said that the domain names were controlled by a group of trustees that had control of the keys, but you thought that we were talking before the show, that you thought that it might become more decentralized if it took off and became extremely popular. Can you elaborate on that for the audience?
Yeah, so just like any smart contract, you have the private key, right? You have the key holder, and so there's only so many people that can hold on these key, and since the contract itself is decentralized, but the network itself is decentralized. But again, I guess the idea right now, especially we're so early in the blockchain service, uh, as we have, to facilitate different upgrades and maintenance and different circumstances that we have to handle different problems on these blockchain name service. These private key will initially be owned by a multi-sig wallet where a few keyword holder will own these. But definitely, gradually, we're seeing to replace a more distributed decision making. Yeah. But again, this will require time. This will require thought and care around it, and to see what is the right way to distribute these keys. Yeah.
Right. To keep the consumer confidence, right? The trust of the companies, right? Yeah, that are using it. Okay, very good. And also, described. You were showing me before the show how you had a decentralized Twitter system so you have some really nice tools. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so we have a few tools. One that we think is really cool is called resolver.portal.network. Um, it is basically like decentralized ENS manager that allows you to claim domain. You get to claim like a free domain, a subdomain. You interact with it with MetaMask or Toshi, the Coinbase wallet, Cipher, or status. And if you own a domain name in any of those wallets, when you interact with the ENS manager, you just type in the domain name that you own. You can transfer those domain names. You can transfer ownership. You can set an address. You can set multiple addresses to receive these tokens. You can set subdomain. You can upload HTML file, zip file, and then it will generate IPFS content hash. Will soon support Swarm, and then it'll bind to your ENS. Then you can type that into URLs, your website.eth, and then visit a site. So that's a tool that we like it a lot, and I think that's one of the first steps when user want to enjoy this decentralized domain name. That would be a great step to start from.
Yeah. So what you just described is for the decentralized content, decentralized like web page. But I thought didn't you also have like short, small messages if you wanted to send messages? Didn't you have?
Yeah.
So can you talk about that as well?
Okay, so that's one of the platform. One of the tools. It's called the Web Builder.
Okay.
We like to view it more like a decentralized post, because you choose like a static page and then choose one of the templates. That's kind of like the idea behind it is to let user have this straightforward experience about decentralized website.
Okay.
You go in there, you choose the template that you want to use, and then you type in the words that you want to type, and then you upload it. It will generate a transaction hash, and then a decentralized domain name, depending on the network that you choose. Let's say if it's Ethereum, and then it will generate an IPFS hash, and then you get to visit it. So
Okay.
that's the idea behind it. Yeah.
I see. All right. So it's very nice. It's nice to know that there's people working on making these user-friendly tools that work across different blockchains and increase the usability of blockchains that move us towards the Web3 world. As we come to the end, can you describe kind of what you think, what people can expect in the future from Portal Network? What are your dreams, next month, next year?
Yeah. So one of our main focus right now is on, other than on blockchain name service and Mume, is Kaizen. So Kaizen is one of our our big platform. It's kind of like a Heroku for the decentralized application, decentralized website. The idea behind it is to allow basically developer to focus on building, and we worry about everything else. So it not only support Ethereum, like Ethereum Classic, and multiple other blockchain like Icon, Tomo Chain, One Chain, Core Chain, and so on. One of the reason behind it is every one of these blockchain, they have their user base, they have their developers, and but many of them they are lack of tools and platform and system to manage and build and facilitate them. So that's why we created Kaizen. And that's something that we're really excited about. We're going to roll out an MVP very soon. The command line interface, the CLI, is already usable. It support different plugin from our from BlueZell, NKN, and Noia Network. We're gonna increase that, improve that as well. So Kaizen is really a place where you see like different, blockchain teams working together to build something to facilitate, I'll say, Web3 or the decentralized web. Yeah.
Okay, so you're really, one of the things you said was you're really trying to make it easy to support lots of different blockchains, even smaller ones that developers may not be too familiar with. Make it really easy, right, with the same interface.
Yeah, for sure. And many of them, for example, Zilliqa has their own language called Sila based on OCaml. And then Icon uses Python, and then Neo has their Neo VM. So everyone is like, I'll say, different. And I, to me and our team, we think it's really fun to experience each one of them. And that's kind of the field as well. It's to experience different blockchain technology, to experience how it works. At the end of the day, the future is not fixed yet. We don't know who's going to become, the next Apple, the next Nokia, the next Motorola, the next Samsung, right?
Right.
So it's fun, and it's great experience to use these technologies, and then try to connect them different ways. And in many ways, like it's like Legos. We like to call it at Portal Network. It's to like build different blocks together and see what comes out. But you've never tried, you never use it, then you will not know, right? We believe that many developers want to use them. There just isn't that one-stop solution where they can go and then see new things coming out. One thing that we see a lot of adoption is Portal's faucet pool. This is a place where you can get testnet token. Testnet token is free, and something that should be very easy to obtain. However, if I ask you to get some of the testnet token from other blockchain, you might not know as you would know it on Ethereum Classic or Ethereum.
Right.
So those are things that hinder adoption, and Portal want to fix that. You can come to Portal and then get testnet token easily from different blockchain. You can come to Portal and then read the guidelines about what you can do with these testnet token. You can come to Portal and read a guideline and know which test network you want to use, and then how do you use them. So being blockchain agnostic and then drive that adoption across multiple chain is what Portal is trying to do.
Okay, very nice synopsis there. Great. So as we come to the end, is there anything else that I forgot to cover, or anything else that you want to say? Or did we get everything?
No. Yeah, I think we cover everything. We did build a website, a decentralized website for you, so you can visit that later.
Okay. Oh, thank you. All right. So there you have it for everybody listening. So a company making wonderful tools to make blockchain adoption happen faster and make blockchain system user-friendly and bring Web3 to reality. So thank you, Christopher, for explaining what you do and Portal Network, and I wish you luck on all your endeavors.
All right. Thank you very much for this experience, Christian. Thank you.
All right, sure. Thanks. Bye.